Does the medical community know where it came from? Like if they think it came from a monkey, do they think it came from an animal or from what?
They think it came from an animal. They're not sure which animal though. They're just not clear. They found it in monkeys and macaques, chimpanzees. They found it in fruit bats, but they're not sure what the home base animal reservoir for this virus is. And it's important to be able to answer that question, although it's hard to get, into the rainforests of this part of the world. But it's important to answer that question because if you can identify the target source, be in a better place to
My
take
daughter
care of
and
it.
I were talking about this, and she said what they need is people to go there, doctors, nurses. So I'm going to donate some money to Doctors Without Borders. It's the only way that I can help.
Yeah, good idea.
We have another question, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Hi. Could you comment or give your opinion about what you think should be the proper quarantine policy? Like I'm thinking of the nurse from Maine who's, objecting to the quarantine, her quarantine and all that. And I know there's a lot of politics in there, but it's kind of hard to know what should be a reasonable policy for that kind of situation.
Well, in general, quarantines can work, but there are issues with regard to quarantines. They're probably not the most effective, and they're political issues, and obviously they're constitutional. Bill of Rights issues with regard to quarantine. Certainly, someone who is actively sick should be expected to be quarantined, per se. The question is, what is it reasonable to ask of Casey Hickox, the nurse in Fort Kent? And what I would suggest that she put into her equation as she decides, because it's going to be her decision. The public can move in on her. They've tried to. The Department of Health and who knows what the state and federal governments would do. But Casey Hickox is to the best of my knowledge, she's in Fort Kent, Maine today. And Fort Kent, Maine is how far from a tertiary hospital?
A long way. It's right up on the Canadian border.
Yes, I've been to Fort Kent. The nearest hospital is 49 beds. Fort Kent right now is experiencing a little bit of a snowstorm. The people in Maine would not consider it a snowstorm. They've got this nothing. 3 to 6 inches of snow and 30 degrees, the wind blowing 20 miles an hour, visibility a half mile. Okay? That's what they're dealing with today. So if Casey Hickox were to get sick, first of all, she said she's been tested twice and she's negative. But now you people here would be able to answer that comment intelligently, right? You're going to stay negative until you're symptomatic, and you may not even be positive for a couple of days after that. And you may not even begin your symptoms with the fever. You may just feel achy, like Craig Spencer just felt achy. If she starts to become symptomatic, right, she's infected and now she becomes symptomatic, where's she going to go? She's going to go to the local 49-bed hospital there in Fort Kent. And they have said, the director of the hospital has said, that he's perfectly prepared to receive her. Well, it's one thing to receive her, but you're not going to keep her there, I don't think, right? She'll have to be then moved. Where is she going? Caribou has Cary Medical Center, that's an hour away on a good road, right? The nearest large hospital, large enough perhaps to take care of her, although to the best of my knowledge as of yesterday, I don't know that there's been any hospital in Maine that has been designated as an Ebola treatment center. So the nearest Ebola treatment center as of yesterday is in Boston. There are 5 in Massachusetts. It would be very likely that she would go to Mass General. Who wouldn't go to Mass General? We're sick with Ebola. How far away is Mass General from Fort Kent?
A long way.
It's 460 miles. It's a 7-hour drive. There's snow. Not only that, but it's not as if she's going to get on her bike and go there, right? No. She's going to have to be transported there. People. It's a long way. It's a long time. There are a lot of people. So I would say, put that into the equation as you make the decision. What is the best thing to do until you're sure and everyone is sure that you're not infected? And oh, by the way, wouldn't it be better for you to perhaps think about a self-quarantine in Boston, close to Mass General, so that if you do get sick, you're right there. And the people who can save your life are 2 blocks away. Okay?
She would have been better off in the hospital in Newark.
I think we have a question right here with Lee.
Yes.
Yes, Kathy, great presentation. To what extent do you think, actually it's my opinion, the politicization of this situation is hurting the effort to eradicate this virus, or at least protect Americans? And secondly, would there be someone, aside from a person who I consider a political hack, being appointed the czar of Ebola?
Yeah, well, of course, you've got two factors in the equation of what do you do now, right? And one of them is what can you do? What should you do? And the people who could answer the question, what should you do, are divided a little bit. And they're not experts at policy necessarily. I mean, Marta Savetti is this fantastic, wonderful, smart young woman at Harvard, and she's sitting on a gold mine of data, and what the 101st Airborne needs to do is to get her more blood samples, right? But I don't know that anybody there in Ron Klain's office, the Ebola czar, the bug czar, right? I don't think anybody knows, I'm not sure that they know, what she needs. Maybe they do. And then you've got Ron Klain, the bug czar, okay, who is by all measures very skilled, politically well-liked, very agile, and he can bring people together, and he can get the job done in terms of policy. He can execute. I was in conversation with someone 2 days ago about this, who spoke very highly of Ron Klain, and I was at the annual meeting of the Harvard School of Public Health's Leadership Council when Ron Klain was appointed. And I, like many people, was alarmed. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You're appointing the point person because clearly you've lost faith in the CDC, right? Or the Center for Disease Control would still be in charge. Now you've got a czar, and the czar is a political operative. And initially I thought, that's it, we're all toast. But then upon further reflection, I thought, you know, that's a very clever choice because you need to have somebody there who can get it done. The question is who informs him? How is he being informed? And apparently he's very skilled at greasing the wheels that need to be greased. My comment is, that's great, but if the wheels come off the bus goes off the road. And so what you really need is to be able to get good information coordinated. I think we're catching up, but obviously we have a ways to go. And there will continue to be this buffer zone of getting the information percolated to the top and then implementing it.
What is your take with all of that, and with our military going over, and is that really dovetailing as far as the information
Yeah.
on that and the treatment?
Yeah,
Kathleen, you
well,
might want to repeat that question.
yeah, the question has to do with, I think how effective is our military response?
And the feedback and all into the process.
Right. And so, you know, you do what's familiar. So the United States has the military and you send the Marines. Now I don't want to embarrass the 101st Airborne because I know the Marines and they're different kinds of guys, but that's the idea, you send the Marines. And if you don't have anything else to send, I guess you have to send in the Marines. I would like to see, I think this is a perfect opportunity for the creation of a health corps, the United States Health Corps. Don't send in the military, have the military provide, they have the ships, they have the helicopters, they got the C-100s, that's great. Send them filled with our supplies, but create, if Obama wants to leave a legacy, this is a legacy, a United States Health Corps with people who are trained and ready to go, and then, like the National Guard, people on reserve, okay, who can be called, you know, mustered forth, so that you've got an effective response to a healthcare crisis, a global healthcare crisis. You don't want people showing up in uniforms again, okay? They like us, but they're sick of seeing the United States show up with uniforms. And so I'm concerned about what will happen is the kind of ad hoc approach that we saw happen, well-intentioned but ad hoc, in Haiti, in New Orleans with Katrina, all of '95 with Hurricane Sandy.
Emily's got a question.
Emily, yes, yeah, first.
So I had a question about your number, between 15 to 130 people in the U.S. may have it. It's an important distinction to say, how are they getting it? Because right now, the only Ebola cases we have in the U.S. are from people who came from Africa or people who care for people who came from Africa who got sick with it. So is that data just including those folks, or is it a presumption that at some point we might actually have Ebola here? Which I'm not really going to be concerned about it really until it's in the community.
Right. It'd be better to be concerned about it now before it gets here.
Well, yeah, when
Yeah,
I'm talking about it.
Right, sure. So I think the mathematical modeling includes both, that it comes to us, it arrives at our shore, and that to a certain extent it spreads. So the question is, how many people does one Ebola patient infect? So that's called the replication number, R naught. You may have seen that in the movie Contagion. So what do you think is the R naught for Ebola? A number? Pick a number.
50.
It's 2. There's Beth.
You were close.
It's 2. It's 14 for measles. It's 2 for Ebola. What was it for the 2009 H1N1 swine flu pandemic? What was the R naught for that?
6. Much higher.
It was 1.4 to 1.6. So the R naught for Ebola is a little bit higher than it was for influenza H1N1 2009 that affected 60 million people. But what is the distinguishing difference? And this is why it's really important. More science, less fear, right? That's what they say at Memorial Sloan Kettering. The R naught, the number of people that are infected, per infected person, may in fact reflect as much the healthcare system and the social system in Africa. I think it's not likely that we would have an R naught of 2 here in the United States unless this thing all of a sudden takes off at warp speed because of other mutations. I think we can handle it. So I think to answer your question, between 50 and 130 is probably a reflection of people coming through the borders, right, into the airports and spreading it around. Now, in 2003, SARS, right? SARS had an R naught of 4, very infectious, airborne, very infectious, and it really nailed Canada, particularly Toronto. The Canadians instituted a screening system, right, airport screening. They screened 750,000 people. They spent $7.5 million. How many cases of SARS did they prevent from coming in or leaving the country? 0. 0. So fully 2/3 of patients who are infected with Ebola, they're incubating it. 2/3 of patients who are infected with Ebola can make it through our screening, airport screening. About 6% of them don't come in through the 5 airports, they come in through other airports. But 2/3 of them that would come in through our 5 airports, if they were infected, they would have no symptoms. And 1/3 of them who had fever would still make it through because the systems that we're using have a margin of error. So again, we have to reframe this conversation. It has to be us, all of us, the world, against the virus, not you're sick, stay away from me. Because again, if we were able to screen them, I'm sort of an advocate for let's get a good blood test. Let's get something rapid where we can, get some of those cells and look inside, crack those cells and see if you have the virus. Because if we did that, if we framed it, if you're positive, we'll take care of you. Come to the United States, and if you're sick, we'll tell you right away, and we'll take care of you. That's a whole different way to approach it.
Janet?
I have 2 questions. One, if I went into Morristown Memorial Hospital right now with a high fever, I said it suddenly came on me, and I have a very high fever. Is it in the protocol now at hospitals that I will be tested? And if so, do places like Quest Diagnostic have a test for this, and how long does it take? And where does the blood go? Who does this test? I mean, is there like a person with a big machine and a bowl person who looks at this and looks at the spaghetti? That's my first question. And I've got a second question.
Okay.
But answer the first one, and then I'll.
Okay, so I don't know what happens at Morristown, but I'll tell you what happens in the largest health Here in New Jersey, that's the Department of Health because we're getting the updates. And right now, there are 3 levels of alert, and we're in a 2B. If anybody is diagnosed with Ebola in New Jersey, we go to level 3, which is the full onslaught. Okay. So right now,
The what?
Full onslaught.
yeah, the full, high level, hot zone kind of alarms. Yeah, 1 person in New Jersey, and the largest healthcare system, St. Barnabas, goes to a level 3. But right now, if you go to the emergency room, walking through there, you don't have to tell me, you just walk into the door. And someone meets you there and says, excuse me, have you been out of the country in the past 3 weeks? Have you been to Africa? And if you answer no, I mean, you could be having a baby in front of them. That's the question they're going to ask. They're going to get asked. And you're going to get a green sticker. You get a green sticker. Okay? Whatever it is, it's not related to Ebola. If you've been out of the country and you're sick, you'll be taken to a special room. Okay?
So
And there'll be a lot of whispering behind the curtains. Right? And they will basically isolate you. Okay, another question is, now what happens? And you say, you know what? I'm part of this ministry and I just got back from Sierra Leone. And I was taking care of some people. I know I was close. I did a funeral. For the priest who died there. Yeah. And I don't know that I got in any direct contact, but I know that there are some people there who probably did. So yeah, and now I have a fever. I do. I'm not feeling well. I feel bad. Yeah, I got my flu shot this year before. And so they're gonna go, okay, you go over here, call the guy who runs the emergency room, call the guy who runs the hospital, and let's get some blood. Now that blood will have to be taken and in a very kind of safe way. And it will have to be sent a couple of places. They can do some screening tests, general. Does it look like a virus or does it look like staph or, what's going on with her? She had a reaction to something. But the definitive test will have to go down to the Center for Disease Control. They've got the machine. That machine actually exists. Illumina makes that machine. And I called Illumina and I said, how much is that machine?
I want to buy stock.
Yeah. How much is that machine? $99,000. A lot less than sending the 101st Airport. And how fast could you get it to me? Oh, we can get it to you in 2 days. We can get it to you in 2 days. Yeah, on average 7 days. So I think an argument can be made for having that machine, at least in every major city. What we need, but remember that machine's not going to work unless the patients are symptomatic, so you're sick, we can test you. And then remember that many patients will test negative for the first couple of days. We're going to have to keep testing you. Does that answer your first question?
It really does, thank you.
Did you have another?
I just have one, which is, here you are, you're confirmed Episcopalian. I'm proud of you. And I know you've been praying a lot about this and thinking about how God is directing you. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are in terms of your call concerning this disease and what you're hearing from the Lord as you pray?
Well, it just seems to me that my interest in viruses and contagion and my experience over the years, most particularly the training and education I received at McGill University, the International Masters for Health Leadership, and my interest, my genuine interest in this and in public health has sort of rattled my personal cage to the extent that I've been trying to figure out how I can participate. And I think I could participate at a higher level than just signing up for the Emergency Medical Corps for the state of New Jersey. And so I've been approaching people who I know are much farther up the food chain to say, if you might find it helpful, I would be happy to become a part of that. And depending on how this works out, this Ebola outbreak plays out, we may contain it very quickly. Not likely, but it could burn itself out and we could contain it very quickly, in which case we'll be on to losing the Super Bowl, right? If not, it will become really all of page one, in which case there'll be a lot of work to do. And so I'm just open to how it will unfold. Reaching for the West Wing, but open to how it will unfold.
Kathleen, I have a variation on Janet's question, and that is taking your non-religious side. Could you tell us, you've been at Harvard at this conference, you're in constant contact with these people, so a two-part question. What's your personal opinion on the odds of this just dying out? I mean, Dr. Spencer's better, you know, one person died, but everybody else in the United States anyway seems to be getting better. So what's the likelihood? And then the second thing is, what is it, in your opinion, should be done? You know, what would be a plan to make sure that it doesn't create a contagion in the United States and all over the world?
I think that based on the conversations that I had with the people who know the most about this, that I know at the Harvard School of Public Health, they're very concerned. They use terms out of control. I heard one scientist drop into the sentence as if it were a parenthetical phrase. We're several mutations away from this becoming airborne, which is of course not what anybody has been saying in public. So I think that they're concerned. I don't think anybody thinks that it's just going to burn itself out. Anything is possible. We don't know enough to be able to predict. All you can say is, what does it look like it's doing? And it looks like it's spreading. And if it's spreading in Africa, we're not going to be able to prevent it from coming here. When it comes here, how will we deal with it? I think we'll deal with it. To the second point, how best to deal with it. So what would I do? Okay. I would continue to ask the question. I would be in a leadership position, I would hope, and I would continue to ask the question of the people who are experts in their field. What is the one thing you would do? So I asked part of this submitting, what is the one thing you would do? And she said I would have that Luna machine or something like it in every hospital in the country and in every airport. Of course, we need something better. So what I would do as a corollary is I would call up MIT and Caltech and all of these smart people, and I would say, we need a better machine. And we need it right now, because we need to be able to tell everybody, not just people coming in here, in our country.
How about the blood samples from Africa?
Yes, okay. So then, you know, the other thing, of course, is that she would say, and number two, while you're up, give me the blood samples from Africa. Ask these people. So then I asked somebody else at Harvard, what is the one thing that you would do? And he was really smart guy. He said, somebody has to take charge of the communication. Someone has to talk about the number 15 to 130. Someone has to tell you what airborne transmission is, because when I can find these articles on the internet, other people can find them. And no one can play catch up. So someone needs to take charge of the communication and keep at it and stay in front of it. So that's what I would do. Get the people in the room and say, what is the one thing you would do? You can't do everything all at once, but what are the one things that we could do? Yes.
I have a very pragmatic question. It's easier, or we can debate about what people should be doing up there. I'm wondering or interested in myself. Namely, should I stop biting my nails? Should I not go to New York City? Should I not use a public water fountain? I mean, when you hear the debate about policy, the natural question is, oh my gosh, we should be doing something different. You know, and other than washing my hands, which I should be doing all the time, is there anything I should actually be doing based upon what's happening now?
No, I don't think so. I think what you need to do is to stay informed, and probably the most important thing is to ask hard questions and respect the people who are the healthcare leaders to give you the answers, you know, and not dismiss you with sort of blanket, you know, Old Testament statements, you know, that we know best, or there's no evidence for that, or not if you can find evidence. There's no evidence.
Yes, Kathy. One of my concerns would be, I guess you could define it as a doomsday scenario. And that is, we all know the activities of ISIS. We all know these people would happily strap on an explosive vest and kill many people. With our porous borders in the United States, to me, it's very likely that they're thinking right this minute of getting infected people into this country and really doing a great deal of harm. And secondarily, is this thought being passed through government? Are people thinking about this?
Did you see the movie Contagion? Did anybody here see the movie Contagion? Right, so you remember that great scene where, you know, so here come the chiefs of staff, you know, and they come into the CDC, you know, and they say to the guy who's running the CDC, if is this bioterrorism? Could it be bioterrorism? And the guy who's running the CDC says, it doesn't need to be bioterrorism. The virus is doing the job. So is it possible? Anything is possible. ISIS can do anything. But I think the more realistic scenario is to figure out how fast this is spreading, what it actually looks like genetically, develop the rapid tests, get the people what they need, including food, demand that the World Health Organization take a leadership role and get the money that's needed so that it's a coordinated effort. And then as the cases come into the United States, be able to educate the citizens in the United States and healthcare leaders who are here to comfort the people who are scared and say, no, you don't have to stop biting your nails, go ahead and bite your nails, that's what you want to do. But this is how we're going to take care of these people. We're going to identify them, we're going to make our healthcare system available to them. We're going to be good to them, and we're going to be good to the people in Africa and the rest of the world. Then I don't think we need to be as preoccupied with what happens if ISIS takes infected people from the Congo and puts them on a plane and sends them to Cleveland.
We have time for one more question.
Who's the person who's been in Lyon?
Anybody else?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
He has information.
Right here.
Yes, tell us what's the
This
state?
is Tom Johnson. He's founded Africa Surgery at the Assumption Church, and he spent 6 months every year in Sierra Leone.
Well, let him talk. Let him talk. Let him talk.
No, I just wanted to introduce him.
Thank you.
I spend as much as 5 months, I'm usually here right now, in Chile. What we have been doing for the last 13 years, my first time seeing winter Christmas in 13 years, is the main thing we've been doing is sending people who need spinal surgery from Sierra Leone to Ghana with a hospital that can do it. Nothing to do with Ebola. That has stopped. We can't send people anywhere. And surgeons going in to do things like cleft lips and palates and club feet, they're not going in. So that stopped. So what we're doing currently, we got involved with disability issues. We're feeding people in quarantined areas and other areas that are disabled, and because the idea is half my team are made up of disabled people. They feel that they're getting even less care than the regular Joe, who's not getting much either. So that's one thing we're doing, and we are now we're talking to an organization based in Great Britain called St. George's Foundation to start sponsoring their caring for Ebola orphans. If you wanted to send money to fight Ebola, I would say Doctors Without Borders or these other people. We're not the only show in town. We're not necessarily the best when it comes to fighting Ebola, but that means 2 weeks ago we sent a 40-foot container with a lot of Ebola supplies plus some other supplies. But don't turn your back on West Africa because it's over there. It's not. It's here.
Kathleen, thank you very, very much.